The governance conference on its first day brought together leaders from various sectors of the economy, with the state of corporate governance in the country being one of the key discussion points. Halake Wako, CEO Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, says that Kenya must find a way of enforcing the laws put in place to promote good corporate governance in the country.
There is need for good governance and good corporate governance, and that is why we have no shortage when it comes to laws and even the constitution and the constitutional framework. The problem we have is enforcement of what we have outlined for ourselves as people to manage our affairs in a proper sense, whether economically, politically, and even socially. And that's why you find that we have laws. Most of the times, our problem lies in where we do not enforce our rules and regulations as expected, as outlined. Before that, it requires discussion and dialogue.
While Kenya is not short of laws that seek to uphold good corporate governance, the country still suffers from poor governance due to lack of goodwill. As a result, Duncan Water, Chairman, Institute of Directors Kenya, highlights the fact that Kenya continues to suffer from stunted economic growth in comparison to its peers that practice good corporate governance.
The biggest challenge that we're facing in this part of the world is the fact that we don't enforce our corporate governance. We have laws, we have institutional bodies that are charged with that, but they don't enforce. You don't see, you hear a lot about corruption. And it's good now we're starting to see some arrests. What we don't see are people in jail or people paying for not observing corporate governance guidelines. When there's lack of good corporate governance, this does not work. And that's where you have companies that are closing. And not just in the corporate world, also in the political space. When there's no good political governance, then these companies cannot run. And that's the problem Africa is facing.
While the ills of poor corporate governance are clear for all to see, the opportunities presented by good corporate governance are immense, as Celestine Munda, country managing partner EY, clearly illustrates in her address.
When we have good governance, it increases access to finance. It means it is easier, the processes are easier to navigate, they are transparent, they are visible, the laws are clear, and it means that we are able to attract larger investments to trigger economic growth and therefore employment. It also means that the cost of capital goes down, just as we've just talked about. So the cost of capital goes down, you have better credit, you're able to attract investors to the East African community.
The problem spills beyond our borders and into the East African region, leading to trade disagreements in the region. On this, Mushai Kunyiha, Vice Chairperson, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, notes that if there is cohesion and good governance in the East African region, then intra-trade is set to bring member states economic benefits.
We all know that once you start losing financially, and a lot of governance, poor governance will lead to financial losses, and once the money goes, then the businesses will start to suffer, and you suffer in many ways. One, the businesses themselves have been collapsing, where they have not been able to control themselves.
From the first day of the conference, it is evident that the East African region and Africa at large can live up to its full potential, but only if good corporate governance practices are adopted and ingrained in the national cultures.